It's not official yet, but I didn't want this baseball thing to come down the way it did. There's just a bad taste in everybody's mouth, and a pox on all of their houses, whatever that means.
Yeah, hey, even Trevor Bauer, who's I think been on the obviously on the side of the Players Association, in some of his comments prior to this, I think acknowledged within the last couple of days that this whole thing was a disaster for the game, and they're eventually going to impose the 60-game season, which I know some people feel is way too short to really be a good reflection of best teams this year and solid competition, legitimate competition. But you can tell how frustrated he was, that they eventually ended up with 60 games anyway, and basically what they got out of it was the right to file a grievance at some point.
Sure. And the other thing is, you talk about 60 games here. 3 weeks ago, they could have made the same deal, I would think, or something similar. They could have been playing the game. And you're going to do it again next year and go through this whole thing again. Would it, as a baseball fan, would you just as soon see they shut it down and forget this season and go make a new deal for next season? Or do they think that would come down to the last second anyway?
Yeah, I just think that would probably come down to the last second, and I think there'd be so much animosity. It's hard to imagine that there could be more than there is now, but you shut down a season, I just think you'd put both sides in a really contrarian position going into what should be a collective bargaining agreement that settles the sport for the next 10 years, you would hope.
Right.
So I think it's important that they play something this year. I think maybe when we get into this less and we get caught up in the actual games that are being played and the talents of the players playing them, that maybe we forget some of this stuff and are happy that they at least got back on the field.
Knowing what we know about the Indians organization, let's put them into this. If you're going to make up a season like this, they actually are in pretty good shape because they got plenty of offense and they have great starting. Well, you think they have excellent starting pitching. So that being said, they should be in a pretty good position. But I can't believe I'm going from just hearing the news of what we're expecting to proclaiming that the Cleveland Indians will be your next champion. Let me just throw this out about a 60-game season. If you had a 60-game season last year, the Washington Nationals, who won it all, would not have qualified for the postseason at the 60-game mark.
Yeah, I'd like to call people's attention, if they're on Twitter, to check out something that Kevin Kleps from Cranes tweeted earlier today. I found it really interesting. It basically went through the Terry Francona tenure as Indians manager, and it took a look at the first 60 games of every year. And you could probably guess, Les, what the trend was.
Well, the trend was they probably wouldn't have made it in 4 of the seasons.
They have at least gotten off to very mediocre starts under him. I think there's something like 215 and 205 in those first 60 games under him. And then we know in the second half of the season they tend to get themselves together and have made some really nice runs at the end of the year.
I was in a conversation with Francona a couple of years ago, talking how he used the bullpen. He had a doubleheader, and he had a big lead in the first game, and he went and he put his closer in. I think it was Cody Allen at the time. And the second game, he was left with a not great closer. And I asked him about it, and he said, you can't just assume you can win games. If you have a chance to win a game, even if you're up 5 runs, you got to take it, because you don't know what's going to happen in game 2. And, that's probably why he's a manager and you and I are not.
Yeah, well, when I was still doing some stuff for Channel 3 before the pandemic, we interviewed him at Tribe Fest, and we talked to him about the rule about relief pitchers facing 3 batters. And he's obviously not in favor of that. If anybody knows, from watching him over the years, he goes to his bullpen often, and he like a lot of managers, lives for those matchups that he believes gives his team a better chance. So it's going to be a real adjustment for a lot of these guys now to not only deal with that, but deal with the shortness of the season. and how they use their players.
And blown saves will hurt more than in previous years.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really intrigued now to see. And listen, I don't know if I can speak for you, but the putting the second the runner on second base in extra innings, I know they did it in the minor leagues a few years ago, but it's always just struck me as very gimmicky, and I didn't like the idea. I guess if you could argue in favor of it this year, it's because it's such an oddball season to begin with.
If you're gonna try stuff, why not?
Yeah, maybe it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
Why not? Let's see how it goes.
All right, let's take a look at what we think we know is going to be announced somewhere along the line in the next couple of hours. The 2020 baseball season will look this way: 60-game schedule. Season would start around July 24th and run through September 27th. Universal DH. I don't know why that's such a problem. Just slide it in there. Runner on second base rule in extra innings. That'll mean at the top of the inning and the bottom of the evening. At the start of that inning, they're going to put a runner on second base, nobody out, and see what happens. Well, I know what'll happen. Guy's going to bunt the ball over, then a fly ball, and essentially the game's over. If that's the bottom of the inning anyway. Players will receive full prorated salaries and 10-team postseason, 5 from each league. So that's how it starts out. That's what it's going to look like. We have no idea what it's going to mean, but I guess I agree if you're going to be gimmicky, now is the time to try it. I just don't know why it had to come down to this.
Yeah, I know in the minors a couple years ago when they were doing it, they're talking about it. The guy who would be on second base would be whoever made the last out in the ninth inning.
The ninth batter that will come up in that inning.
Right. So I guess if you have a guy who can handle the bat leading off the 10th, he's probably likely, what you said is true. He's probably likely to bunt the guy over and try to get a run in as soon as possible.
How can that be exciting?
I know, but if it's your cleanup hitter, you're probably not taking the bat out of his hand, I would, right? So there will be some strategy involved, but hey, listen, it's only 60 games this year. I mean, what's the big problem if some of those 60 games, it's already a short season, what's the problem if some of them go into extra innings? I mean, I don't understand the issue, actually. I think people, now that they have baseball back, wouldn't mind a couple extra innings on occasion.
I suppose that's correct.